Point After Podcast with your host, Julien Barnett.
What's up, fantasy world? Welcome into the Point After Podcast. I'm your host, Julien Barnett, brought to you live, as always, from the True North Fantasy Football Network and sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. We have a full slate, if you will, of DFS and football to talk about today. I got two fantastic friends, co-hosts, guests, whatever you want to call them on. So before we get into any of this very exciting news to talk about, and there is a lot of it, we're going to have some injuries. We're going to be playing some Monkey Knife Fight touchdown dances, and then we're also going to be making some Sunday night and Monday night football showdown captain slates with two of the best DFS in the business. So I'm excited to get into it. But before we get into all that, let me introduce my fellow podcasters here. Beside me, I've got my good friend, Chris Robin, known on Twitter as Detroit Beastie. Chris, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm fantastic. This feels great to be on with you boys yet again on Friday. I feel like all is right in the world when we get together. I know, I shouldn't say our schedules. It's been my schedule. I don't want to, make you boys seem like the jerks here. It's been me. I've been busy on Friday nights. I've gone out with a few folks. I've had other commitments, but we're back here, and this is where I want to be on a Friday night.
Well, we are happy to have you on. And, last week, unfortunately, we didn't hit on any of our three games. We came very close on all three. But maybe with the boost of Chris in the lineup, we can make sure that we go out and hit this week to win you guys some money. But down on the bottom, there is my other good friend, Coach Craig. You can find him on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. Coach, how you doing on this Friday night?
I'm doing pretty good. And I'll just say, if you play Kyle Juszczyk in the captain spot instead of Trent Sherfield, that lineup did cash, and it actually cashed the KFC free contest too. I played that line with it, so.
Yes, it did. I'm going to get into that as we dive in, but we just picked the wrong guy in that captain spot, and it would have been a nice hit. So, and we did talk about that while we were on the air. So, if you do want to hear our thoughts on that, go back and take a listen, and you can laugh at us for putting Trent Sherfield in the captain spot over Kyle Juszczyk, and we can all have a good time with it. But yeah, let's get into it, guys. There's a lot to talk about this week. Last week we had half an hour of injuries, Coach. So we'll try and limit that a little bit, but it's going to be hard. There is so many to go over. I'm going to throw it to you here. You spend some extensive time digging up all of these injury reports. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so I'm going to start out with the ones that are people that are going to be out first of all. So DJ Chark, obviously last night, he ended up breaking his ankle, got rolled up on. He's out indefinitely. Could end up being the whole season. We should see a little bit of a bump for Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, guys like that. James White, he hurt his hip last week. He's likely done for the season. Christian McCaffrey, he's out as expected with his hamstring injury. So we got the Chuba Hubbard, but I think that's probably a point that's been talked about plenty times on the network overall. Then we get Elijah Moore and Jeff Smith, wide receivers for the Jets, are both out with concussions. It looks like Jamison Crowder will make his 2021 debut this week. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones are both out, so that's a pretty big deal there. So we got Ryan Tannehill throwing to guys like Nick Westbrook-Akina, Chester Rogers, and Josh Reynolds, probably the most notable of those three. Then both Giants receivers with hamstring injuries are out. So we got Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton. So obviously Kenny Galladay gets a big bump once again. Kadarius Toney and probably Colin Johnson like we saw last week. Gio Bernard is out with that knee injury that he suffered towards the end of last week. So we'll see if Leonard Fournette's maybe more involved in the passing game. Maybe Keyshawn Vaughn comes out of the abyss to do something. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that later though. Greg Newsome, the corner for the Browns, is out with a calf injury. So all I got to say is start your Adam Thielen this week. I was going to start him if Newsome was playing anyways, but if you have Adam Thielen, start him. Definitely look at him for DFS as well. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he's out with a hamstring injury for the Packers. So bump up for guys like Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. Russell Gage is out once again.
I'll stop you there. I just want to quickly talk about some of these players so we don't get too far ahead of ourselves, because here's some big fantasy impacts here. Obviously, AJ Brown and Julio Jones both being out. Some people might point to this being these other wide receivers stepping up, but ultimately, I think this is going to be a Derrick Henry, stat. I mean, they're just going to run through that Jets defense with Derrick Henry. He might see 35 rushes in this game. Honestly, it would not surprise me. I'm sitting Ryan Tannehill. I don't really like the receiving options. I just wanted to quickly touch on this Tennessee backfield. Is there anything that you guys wanted to add to that?
Not really. I mean, I will say in passing, I tweeted out not too long ago about Nick Westbrook. What's his last name, Coach? You made fun of me. Nick Westbrook. Akina. Yeah, he looks like a good play for all intents and purposes. He's only $5,300 on FanDuel, but here's the thing: the Jets. This might be shocking. The Jets are 4th overall in defending opposing wide receivers. And look, am I going to have him in any lines? Absolutely not. Am I going to play him in seasonal formats? Absolutely not. But it's fun to get the ball rolling and get people thinking, because again, when you send out a tweet like that, you get a dozen folks that say, well, I like that play, well, here's what I have, and it gets the ball rolling and everybody's getting together and they're chatting, and before you know it, it turns into like a sleeper thread in a weird way. So just want to mention Nick Westbrook, Akine, however you said it, Coach.
Kine.
Kine.
Yeah, but I'll say some of his stats last week were a little bit fluky because AJ Brown and Julio Jones both went out. He played 78% of snaps. Josh Reynolds was not active in that game because he does not play special teams. So I think Josh Reynolds is my sneaky play, a punt play for like DraftKings this week. He's $3,000. And this touchdown that Nick Westbrook-Akina scored was also where a linebacker was covering him too. So there's a little bit of flukiness to that as well. The other guy that was out too, as well as for just finishing up the outs real quick, is Russell Gage. He was out last week, so we don't probably need to talk about that one too much. But probably one of the big ones, and one of the ones that we'll end up talking about more later on, is Rob Gronkowski. He's dealing with the rib injury, and he's doubtful. He has not practiced at all this week. But kind of like I was talking to Julien about before the show, I would not be surprised if he's one of those rare cases that go from doubtful to playing, just because it's Gronk, and he's playing in New England too, so it's you don't want to expect him to miss this game, but if he does, it just kind of feels really weird, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this, this is the reunion. This is Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski going back to Foxborough for the first time. It's hard to imagine that he sits out this game. And as you said, pre-show, give him a couple shots, see how he feels before the game. And, we very well might see him out there. And if that's the case, I don't think it's crazy to think that he scores in this one. I mean, that's going to be the Rob Gronkowski, Tom Brady special that they always do. So, yeah, it might be one of those rare cases.
Mm-hmm. And wouldn't it be just fitting if he breaks the career passing yards record throwing to Gronk on that play too?
No kidding. Can you place a bet on that somewhere?
There's probably one somewhere. Like if you go on Vegas Sportsbook somewhere, there's got to be something like that.
I'll take your money, Julien. I'll take your money, but if you don't lose and you don't pay, I'm going to be knocking at your front door because there will be some a vig here. There'll be a little bit of juice in that.
You could make your way up here, Chris, or you could also just expose me on our live show together. I would definitely pay up, but I don't plan to be losing out. I like the odds with the Brady to Gronk connection down on the goal line. Coach, we got a few more injuries we still got to get through. There's quite a bit of
we'll get to the guys that are kind of questionable right now. So we got we got Jack Doyle first. He has been dealing with a back injury. He missed 2 days of practice, was limited in practice today. We'll see if he ends up playing or not. If he doesn't end up playing, I know everybody loves Mo Alley Cox. I think it's kind of a trap play if it happens though, because Carson Wentz is still not 100%. We've seen him have pretty good chemistry with Michael Pittman Jr. as well, too. Mm-hmm. And some of these other wide receivers starting to get healthy. We've seen Zach Pascal do pretty well early on. So it might look good on paper. Everybody loves the big gigantor, but I don't know if it's actually going to be there or not.
Yeah.
Then we got Melvin Gordon. He is listed with ribs and a leg injury. He's been limited in practice all week. Supposedly he's got broken ribs, but somehow he's still questionable for the game. So I don't know if he's actually going to play. I don't think he should play, but we've seen stranger things happen. So Javonte Williams probably looking pretty good this week. I know you love him, Julien.
I do. And I mean, even if Melvin Gordon does play, I mean, do you really want to put a guy who supposedly has a shoulder injury and broken ribs to your starting lineup? I'd rather be wrong and have him score on my bench than put him in there and get a early injury exit. So yeah, fire up Javonte. Let's go.
Yeah, and then Jonathan Taylor's dealing with a knee injury. He's been limited in practice all week. He's questionable. We assume he kind of plays, but if he doesn't play, it kind of gets interesting because you still have Nyheim Hines. Marlon Mack, most notably, and the team came together and agreed to, a trade. So if Jonathan Taylor can't go, are they going to play him? Or are they going to play Jordan Wilkins? It's kind of a sticky situation there altogether, really. Then we got Dalvin Cook, who has an ankle injury. He's limited practice all week. So that's a step up from last week. He is questionable. There was a little bit of a rumor going around during the Vikings game last week that said they ruled him out ahead of time because he wasn't feeling right. They said like something felt weird with his heart or something. I really haven't heard anything more about that. And like when I was searching it at the time, you really couldn't find anything online, but it was something the announcers in the game did bring up. So I assume everything's good with that. If he's out there, you're obviously going to play him. If he's not, then Alexander Madison looks pretty great once again.
Yeah, and I will just add too, most of these, all these players we've just listed off here were limited participants, and generally speaking, at least at the running back position, those players do end up getting into the game. So I think as a general rule, if you get 3 limited participation practices in a week, you're probably going to be playing on Sunday. There is going to be a couple odd cases, like next guy we're probably going to talk about here, or down a little bit, Antonio Gibson, because he had the DMP as well. But I just wanted to throw that in there, Coach, because yes, they were limited, but I do think the odds are in the favor of most of these guys still getting out there.
Yeah, and it's important to keep in mind that every team's definition of a limited practice is a little bit different too. Because if you look at the Patriots practice reports historically, you'll see like 20 some guys limited in practice for most of the week, and then they'll be questionable going into game time. And 90% of those guys are going to play anyways. That's just something they've done. Back when there used to be the probable designation tag, Tom Brady was probable with a shoulder injury for like 18 years straight, it seemed like. But yeah, it's just something they do. And I mean, you look at the Lions and DeAndre Swift's limited practice all week for the last couple of weeks, still list the groin, but his groin's fine at this point. It's just they're not trying to waste him away in practice and have anything else get worse with it. But getting over to the Steelers wide receivers now, Juju had the rib injury. He practiced in full today. Deontay Johnson with his knee injury practiced in full the past 2 days. So they both should be good to go. Chase Claypool, however, is dealing with a hamstring injury now. Limited practice yesterday, did not practice today. He is questionable. So we'll see if he goes or not. It's just going to be an interesting situation. I don't think it really changes too much what we thought initially of the Steelers wide receivers going into the year. I thought it'd be a little bit more interesting, if like 2 of these guys ended up missing, maybe James Washington works in there. We saw Najee Harris have 19 targets last week. Chase Claypool, I believe, had 12. So it would be a lot more interesting in that situation, but it looks like most of the crew is going to be out there. The only Chase Claypool may be the one missing. I don't know. You guys have any more thoughts on the Steelers at all?
I'm firing up Deontay, but other than that, I'm not. Like Najee Harris had 19 targets last week, and that's because Ben didn't have anybody to throw the ball to that wasn't more than 10 yards down the field. He just can't push it downfield. That's why I'll go in and throw Deontay in that lineup. I know he's going to get the volume, but as far as the big plays that we've seen in the past from this team, I just think those days are pretty much gone. And if you're hoping for one of those, there's going to be one in a game. And I can't even guarantee that's going to go to Chase Claypool anymore. So I'm kind of, yeah, exactly. Right. If he plays. So I'm mostly staying away, but obviously I'll fire up Najee and I'll fire up Deontay. I'm probably not, I don't have any interest in throwing Juju out there. Is he even playing this week?
Juju's going to play. He practiced in full today.
Okay, yeah.
So Claypool is questionable.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not super excited. Where are you at, Chris?
Well, I made the decision in ahead of week 1 with these 3 wide receivers in terms of DFS perspective, whichever one is the cheapest week to week, that's the one I'm going to play. In seasonal formats, if you own these guys, you might want to look for another option. But again, we're going into week 4, so I think that we can throw out all that nonsense to a certain extent about, well, I have this draft pedigree, or this is where I drafted a guy. More than likely, Juju and Claypool were what, like 6th, 7th, even 8th round, maybe 10th plus in some realms. But at this point in the season, week 4, I wouldn't have an issue going, well, yeah, I drafted Michael Pittman in the 14th round, but I drafted Claypool in the 10th round. So I feel like I'm stuck to starting the guy I drafted, earlier. That draft what's the saying?
Pedigree.
That draft pedigree doesn't matter really anymore at this point. So in terms of DFS, I would prefer whichever guy is the cheapest. And as it stands now, Deontay Johnson is the most expensive on FanDuel. He's $7,000. Chase Claypool $6,500, and then Juju is only $6,000. So of the three, if I'm going to stick with my system here, Juju is the cheapest. So that's who I would roster if you're asking me, which you did. Realistically, I'm not touching any of them with a 10-foot pole. Najee is the only draw here. We saw Big Ben looks looks like a construction barrel back there. He's literally grown roots into the ground. He doesn't move, and when he does, he trips and falls over. So it's all bad.
He's just the old man that lost his walker at this point in time. But I think it's important to note too, Najee got the 19 targets last week, but Juju didn't play most of that game. He played, I think, about 40% of snaps. He's been playing over 90% this season. So if he's back, that should take away some of that short area targets at least. And you'd like to think the Steelers aren't going to throw the ball 50-plus times in this game, even though the Packers have been known to put up points. But Ben could have a little bit more time in the pocket, too, since the Packers' pass rush has not been good this year, and they are without Zadarius Smith once again, too.
Yeah, guys, I just got to interject here. We have a comment just asking for some start-sit questions here. So Angie says, hi, guys, Sutton or Lockett? Lockett is banged up. And I actually feel pretty comfortable going Sutton in this case. I do like Tyler Lockett as well. I think he's going to be, pretty good wide receiver this week. I updated my ranking this week. I have him at the wide receiver 17 going into this. But if, I want that safety blanket, I actually like Sutton in this game against this Baltimore defense. I think this is actually going to be a higher scoring game than people think it will be. Both these offenses have been able to move the ball, and the defenses, have been strong enough, but they also haven't played some super stellar competition. So I think we're actually going to see both these offenses move the ball. Where are you guys at? Do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Angie. She's a fantastic woman, very supportive. I've had nothing but good interactions with her. She's very willing to just be helpful and supportive and share your content. So Angie, thanks for being here. We haven't had too many interactions, but you always share my content. So for that, it's all love. Of these two players here, Tyler Lockett or Cortland Sutton, I'm on the Lockett end of things here, and I'll read you what I have for the projections here. I got Sutton, 8 targets, 5 receptions, about 70 yards. So you're looking at about just shy of 14 overall fantasy points here. In Lockett, I have 8 targets, 6 or 7 receptions for anywhere between 85 and 90 yards, and I do have him scoring a touchdown here. So obviously the touchdown is a boost. So I'm going to go Tyler Lockett here, and I'm not even going to think twice about it. I like to be decisive with these decisions. So Angie, thanks for the question. I'm starting Lockett, my dear.
Love it. And Coach, where are you at? You get to be the tiebreak here.
So I'm on Lockett too as well. I believe Lockett was a top 15 wide receiver for me in my rankings. Cortland Sutton was around 24 or 25, if I remember off the top of my head correctly. So I do like the upside of Lockett a little bit more. It's important to note that Cortland Sutton is going to play most of this game against Marlon Humphrey, who's one of, top 5 corner in the NFL at this point in time. So I think this is actually a better game for Noah Fant and Tim Patrick in general.
All right. It's funny. I just checked my rankings to see where I actually was. I do have Tyler Lockett at 17. Number 18, I have Cortland Sutton. So that's how I have it played out this week. And I will say, last week my wide receiver rankings were not on par. So it might be best to take Chris's advice on this one. I was good in week 2. Week 3 really threw me off. Emmanuel Sanders scoring 2 touchdowns didn't help anything. But yeah,
I can say really quick.
wrong. Yeah.
Julien, if you don't mind, I have my rankings up here as well really quick. And I just a quick look at it the other day. And as it stands right now, I have Tyler Lockett in my top 10 sitting there right at 7, right above Calvin Ridley and right below like Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. I know I got to get in there and tweak it, which I will do this time tomorrow and get him, hammered home. But right now I have Lockett, very squarely ahead of Cortland Sutton.
All right. That is quite the gap compared to where I have them. And so I love the feedback. One more question we got here, and Coach, this might be a question more directed towards you because you seem to know every single player in the NFL. But would you all pick up the Broncos defense? I don't have a whole lot of experience with DST, to be honest. Most of my leagues are dynasty without them. So as far as I know, yeah, the Broncos are a good defense. But from a fantasy perspective, going against the Ravens this week, I'm not too sure that I'm really interested in rolling them out. Where are you guys at? Coach?
Yeah, so I stream defenses week to week anyways when I'm in redraft leagues. So against the Ravens, they're not a matchup that I want to play. It's important to note that they are without 3 of their starters. Ronald Darby's on IR. Bradley Chubb, I believe, is on IR now as well. And then Josie Jewell tore his pectoral muscle, so he's done for the year. So they're missing 3 big players there. And the guy, obviously Patrick Surtain, the second coming in replacing Darby, is fine. But Justin Strainod, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right. If you're out there, if your family's listening, I do apologize. But he was a 7th round pick at the end of the day too, and he still had very limited experience. Obviously, Malik Reed coming in for Bradley Chubb. It's a drop off, but it's still not the biggest deal in the world. But it's still something to note. And their defense, they haven't played anybody good yet this year, so we don't really know exactly how good this defense is.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. And likewise, I'm staying away due to this Baltimore offense. Chris, you got anything to add on that, or should we get into the last of these injuries?
Let's get into the last of the injuries. I will say Denver's $4,200 on FanDuel, and right now they rank first overall in guarding opposing quarterbacks. So would that kind of switch your mind around on Lamar Jackson? Probably not. Just a little food for thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll just say we got some San Francisco injuries here too. It's important to note for that Tyler Lockett that they're pretty depleted at cornerback for the 49ers in general. Like we were talking about before the show, Josh Norman has like a collapsed lung. He's not going to play. K'Wan Williams isn't going to play. Obviously, Jason Verrett was done for the year after week 1. So they're really hurting there. They got some rookies they're going to be playing. Emmanuel Mosley as well, who's not the greatest either. So definitely a lot of opportunity there for Seattle wide receivers in general. But for the regular ones that are a little bit more fantasy relevant, we got Elijah Mitchell. He's still dealing with that shoulder injury. Limited in practice all 3 days this week. He's questionable. We'll see if he plays or not. We'll see what the workload looks like, the split between him and Trey Sermon, if Elijah Mitchell does end up playing. And we'll see how involved Kyle Juszczyk is once again. And then obviously the big one for the 49ers is George Kittle. He's dealing with a calf injury. He didn't practice the first 2 days this week. It didn't really say limited in practice today, but he did some work on the side. So I'm just going to call that limited in practice. He's questionable. I do assume he plays because he's just that one of those tough guys that's just going to try to play if he's able to do so.
Yeah, I think so too. All right.
Then we got Darrell Henderson. He's been dealing with that rib injury. He was limited in practice the first 2 days this week. Practice in full today. He's questionable, but the fact that he practiced today in full is obviously a good sign. It looks like he's going to play. We didn't see much of a running game out of the Rams last week anyways. Darrell Henderson.
When Sony Michel is your starting running back.
Hey. Sony looked good last year. So,
yeah.
But I think you can honestly roll out Henderson if you need to. But it's one of those situations you might want to wait week 2 if you have the luxury to do so.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like most people probably do with where he was going in startup drafts as well this year. He was really a value. And then with the Cam Akers injury, it's not like I think few teams, had Darrell Henderson as their RB2 or RB3 even going into the season, unless they went, zero running back. So, you can probably pivot, which might be the best move here.
Yeah. The next one I got is Khalil Mack. He is a defensive player, but he's obviously, the Bears' best defensive player in general. He's dealing with a foot injury. And I swear when he came out of the game last week and I saw him walking on the sidelines, I'm like, this dude's going to miss at least 2 weeks after this game. Like you just seen the way he's walking around the sideline there. He didn't practice the first 2 days this week, limited practice. He's questionable. I really just don't expect him to play this week, especially with this foot injury. If the Bears want to go anywhere at all this year, which is looking pretty doubtful at all, but yeah, we'll get there. You want him to be as healthy as possible down the stretch, so it's not really worth risking it. No offense, Chris. The Bears should at least try to be able to beat,
I actually think the Lions win this game.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they win either, honestly. But
yeah, I picked the Lions to win this one, and I'm sticking to that, Chris. I hope you know I'm putting my faith in your boys here.
There you go. Obviously, I mean, I'm not a dummy. I try not, my content isn't like all homerism stuff, but yeah, I think the Lions have a good chance here. To be fair with you, I have the final 31-24 in favor of the Lions. They've been playing like way up there. Yeah, high octane and just, some stuff felt, I mean, come on, a 66-yard field goal that hit the crossbar and then it rolled in. I mean, that's not normal, right? I mean, they should have won that game, but that's neither here nor there. That was last week, and we're looking ahead here. And to be honest with you, I think the Lions kind of roll Chicago. They don't know Matt Nagy doesn't know his ass from his head, and still saying that their quarterback one situation is a game time decision. Matt Nagy is an absolute dummy right now, and I think the Lions should be able to take advantage of that. I know that they're 0-3, but they've been playing at a high level against some pretty damn good teams. So I think they just roll over the Bears.
This is like that Chiefs team with Alex Smith a few years ago that just like kept losing like within like 2 to 3 points on like the last play of the game. They had like 6 or 7 losses that year where they were just like just an unlucky loss. I feel the Lions are that same way. They're a very gritty team. And I think this is the week they pull out their first win against a division rival who is spiraling. And so I like the Lions in this one.
Yes.
I'll get to that quarterback situation real quick here, though. So Andy Dalton limited in practice all week so far with that knee injury. Justin Fields, he had a little bit of a thumb injury too. Very, very minor, but he's practicing full all week. Nagy's, like Chris already alluded to, he's choosing a starter on Sunday, essentially, which just means he's holding out. This is what it means. He's just waiting to see if Andy Dalton's good enough to play on Sunday. That's all it means. That's the way I take it. If Andy Dalton's not good enough to play on Sunday, then who knows if we see Justin Fields. We might see Nick Foles even. Like, it's just a mess at this point. But do not underestimate that Detroit Lions pass rush. They've been pretty good this year. They've been getting after the quarterback. They've been getting sacks. And this Bears offensive line, they have communication problems. They have not been blocking well, especially on the edge. And part of that's because you brought Jason Peters in. He was going fishing for like 3 weeks before the season even started, or when before the time they signed him. He wasn't in NFL shape. He was just out there, and they're like, well, we need somebody. But that's kind of that for that. Antonio Gibson, like we already alluded to a little bit before, he's dealing with a shin injury. Did not practice yesterday, limited in practice today. So we'll see if he ends up playing. If he doesn't, that throws a big wrinkle into this game. We see some Jared Patterson, some J.D. McKissick as well. I know you're the biggest Gibson guy.
lover out there. I am, and I have a lot of Gibson exposure.
So what's up with him, and how come he's always banged up?
You know what? I've been asking myself the same question, Coach. Like last year, it was the turf toe at the end of the year, and he was on that stretch where he just scored 2 or 3 touchdowns a game for a little while there, and he was on that tear. And then now he just hasn't really been getting the usage. Even this past week, I mean, he was fine for fantasy, but he had a screen for a 75-yard touchdown pass, and I think he only saw 8 or 9 touches on the ground as well. So is not getting that usage that I kind of expected him to. I thought he would also take a step in the passing game, and we'll see. We'll kind of see how it goes. I have moved him down in my rankings, whereas I was previously kind of looking at him as like a locked and loaded back end RB1 who I can put in my lineup. Now I'm kind of expecting RB2 numbers, and really just tempering my expectations so I can build my lineups, with a little bit more volatility in case he does, come out and only get 10 touches and, put up 50 yards and no touchdown. That's just not going to get it done. So I'll build a little more upside at the other positions. But yeah, I do have a lot of Antonio Gibson, man. Like I think I have him in like 6 or 7 leagues, and I've got to go and, figure out another option this week. And one of them, I made the rookiest of rookie fantasy football mistakes. I went through all my lineups. I made sure all of my Thursday players were in the actual starting positions, except for my one money home league that I left J-Rob in the flex spot. I have Antonio Gibson in one of the running back spots, and so now I'm really hoping that Antonio Gibson can go out there and play. Otherwise, I'm going to be taking a loss where I could go and put in a better flex option, but I messed up. So luckily I have an easy matchup. But that's my thoughts. Everything I got to say about Antonio Gibson, it's laid out on the floor now.
So the biggest thing for him too is that shoulder injury he's been dealing with. They're not giving him a bunch of carries because they don't want him to get hurt even more with the shoulder injury. And that also makes it harder to catch passes because it's harder for him to get his arm up in the air and all that stuff too. But the thing is, he got all those touchdowns last year. Their defense was, elite last year. Now their defense is getting up all these points, so they're not in these positive game scripts anymore. So it's you see the correlation, and it's affecting him too. So I think there's a lot to do with that as well. The last two guys that we do have on the list is Josh Jacobs, limited practice both days this week. This is the Monday night game. And Keenan Allen, limited practice both days this week with a knee injury. So supposedly John Gruden came out and said today, if Josh Jacobs is active, Peyton Barber is still the starting running back, which sounds pretty freaking crazy, but who knows? I'm not a big Peyton Barber guy. I'm not a big Josh Jacobs guy at all. I think the only running back that you at least know what's going to happen with them in that backfield is Kenyon Drake, because he's going to get the little receiving work. So it's just kind of a backfield I'm avoiding this week unless Josh Jacobs is out altogether once again.
That's still gross. And at least maybe there's a small sell window on any Peyton Barber shares you might have if he does come out and beat Josh Jacobs out for the starter role. I actually, one of my tanking teams, I started Peyton Barber in my super flex spot, and he won me this week. So I was quite upset about that. I'm looking to move on from him. That was pretty crazy, actually. I had a bunch of just random players who all had really good fantasy weeks. And I took advantage. I went and sold a bunch of those players this week for a couple first round picks and a couple seconds. So happy to do that. But was there any more on this list, or does that round out our injuries, Coach?
No, that's it. That's about all 25 or 26. Once again, there was
that's all we got.
A lot this week, but it was a lot of big names too, honestly, and a lot of important ones.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't even get into, we did touch on them, but guys like Sterling Shepard and Russell Gage and MVS, they all are valuable to their actual football teams. And so, losing those guys, it does make a big impact on how these teams are going to perform, even if it's not so much for fantasy, but just about like who's going to be on the field and target share and where those are going to go. So, Chris, you got anything to add on to that before we jump into our Monkey Knife Fight touchdown dance?
No, I'm good. I'm looking to see more Peyton Barber. I told anybody that would listen last week he was in bottom of the barrel. I talked about him on several broadcasts, and lo and behold, 23 carries for 111 yards. So
and a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm looking to ride that Peyton Barber train until the wheels fall off.
Which will be soon. I promise you, it won't take long.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you got him for free. Really, that's in a season long or in a dynasty league, you pick Peyton Barber pretty much up off waivers. If you can sell him for anything at this point, I'd be happy to do it. So, all right, guys, let's get into our touchdown dance. Before we do, I'm just going to play a quick Monkey Knife Fight video, and then we will show you what it's all about.
If you want the best DFS player prop games in the industry, jump onto Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight is sweeping the nation right now, and we at True North are proud to be doing it along with them. They've got games for all sports and skill levels that are sure to keep you on the edge of your seat, with endless opportunity to watch your winnings pile up. With our promo code TNFF, Monkey Knife Fight will match your first deposit up to $50. So sign up now with our promo code and you can get up to $50 of free money to start making some bank. Again, that's monkeyknifefight.com, and the promo code is TNFF at your first deposit to start playing today.
All right. And so last week we did do a touchdown dance. You and I, Coach, 2 weeks ago. We made one as well. We did hit with that one 2 weeks ago. This week we tried to dip back into some of the similar player pool, and unfortunately we came up just short. We had We had DK Metcalf, who did score a touchdown right off the hop. We started hot there and was pretty excited about it. Then we had Justin Jefferson, who also came through for us. But our third man in the picture, he was Mike Evans. He did not grab a touchdown, and we finished under our line of 3.5. So I think we were on the right track there. Obviously, we made a little mistake with Evans. He didn't really get involved around the goal line, which is not typical for him. Chris Godwin had a rushing touchdown down there. So some things that, we just didn't really see going our way. But I think we can get back at it this week. We're going to do the morning slate, which is it's a pretty great slate, to be honest, of players that we can pick from. We've got Carolina at Dallas, Cleveland at Minnesota, Detroit at Chicago, Houston at Buffalo, KC at Philadelphia, Tennessee at the Jets, the Giants at New Orleans, just to name a few. And then also, of course, Arizona and the Rams, and Washington football team versus Atlanta. It's quite the slate to pick from. We have a plethora of extremely talented players who, are very likely to score touchdowns. And so, let's get into it. I'll pull it up here. Chris, is there anybody off the hop here who immediately jumps out to you as a touchdown target in this game? Somebody who you think is almost a lock for at least one, but likely 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's got to be Derrick Henry, right? I'm double checking. I believe
Easy.
he plays at 1:00. He's playing at the Jets, 30th overall. He is, he's the most expensive player on DFS formats from an RB spot. But yeah, Derrick Henry, absolutely, he could hit the end zone 3 times.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think in terms of safety, he's the safest you're going to find. And there is some really great players on this slate that we can pick from, and we'll get into them. But Derrick Henry, to me, is the lock. Julio Jones and A.J. Brown are out. We talked about that earlier. And I really do think this is just going to be a Derrick Henry ground and pound game. And he's going to take full advantage of it. Even if the Jets know it's coming, I truthfully don't think they can stop him for 4 quarters. He's going to eat. So, Coach, do you have any opposition to Derrick Henry, or are you happy to lock him in there with our first selection?
No, he was one of the 3 guys that was right on the top of my head.
Yeah, no, I agree. And some other highlights too are, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, if he plays, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, maybe at this point, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, Zeke, Jonathan Taylor, Swift, Diggs, Thielen, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. I mean, the list goes on, and that doesn't even include Ridley and Cooper Kupp as well. So lots of players to pick from, and with a slate this big, we have that advantage. Coach, I want to go to you now. Who do you think is, number 2 that's just a guy that we got to get into this lineup?
So the 3 that really stood out to me at the beginning was Derrick Henry was obviously number 1. Number 2 for me is Adam Thielen. Like I alluded to already with Greg Newsome being out, it's a good matchup for him. Denzel Ward's going to be on Justin Jefferson. That's the sides of the field that those 2 players both line up on. And we know Adam Thielen has a nose for the end zone. He didn't get in there last week, but he gets in there more often than not. And then the other guy that really stood out for me was Travis Kelce against the Eagles linebacker unit. So I think that's a really good matchup as well.
Yeah, I like them both. I put in the show doc notes, either of those lead pass catchers for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'd be happy to throw into this one. I think Travis Kelce is pretty much a lock for 1 touchdown in this game as well. I would be pretty surprised if he didn't get in there. And then I love the Adam Thielen call as well. These guys kind of take turns, and Kirk Cousins is playing out of this world right now, and I don't really see it slowing down. I mean, he looks like he's in command of this offense. He knows exactly what's happening. He's making the right reads, and he's not trying to do too much. He's just doing what the team needs from him. And it doesn't reflect in the, in their win-loss, but they've been close in all of these games. Similarly to the Lions, they've kind of been dealt the shorthand of these situations. So I like the Adam Thielen call. I do think he likely gets into the end zone on this one too. He does have that nose for it. So if you're comfortable with it, Chris, I'm happy to go in and plug both those guys in there. Do you have anybody else you want to just bring into the conversation that we can talk about as a potential 2 touchdown scorer?
Yeah, I want to plead my case for David Montgomery, Chicago Bears running back. Again, the Detroit Lions go to Chicago. The Lions are 27th overall against opposing running backs. And again, we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be like. Is it going to be Fields? Is it going to be Foles? Is it going to be Dalton? I don't know, but they would be, Matt Nagy would be unbelievably silly not to feed David Montgomery here. And I'm going to pull up what I have for his projections here. And I have DMont for about 18 carries in this one. So, 18 carries against a lowly ranked, 27th overall ranked defense against running back. So give me David Montgomery to score. 1 is a lock, I think, but 2 could be special here. 18 carries, 80 yards, average 4.5 yards a pop. I do think he finds the end zone, maybe on the ground and in the air, boys.
Well, I think it's interesting you bring it up because we actually talked about this earlier. You said that you project this to be a 31-24 victory, if I'm correct, if I remember that correctly. Absolutely. And those points got to come from somewhere. And truthfully, I don't think it's from the wide receiver position with this quarterback fiasco going on. And so, David Montgomery is the most likely player to be scoring those points. So I'm not opposed to that either. He is a guy who I've actually been trying to go and buy in a few dynasty leagues with the slow start and the uncertainty in this offense. But, I think the volume that he gets is going to be consistent. So the question would be, which guy do we have to go ahead and take out of the lineup? Are we dropping Adam Thielen, or is it going to be Travis Kelce? And Chris, you're bringing in David Montgomery, so you got to make this decision here for us. Which one of these guys do you think, is least likely to score?
Well, it's Travis Kelce is a stone cold stud. It's what he does. So of the two, I would go, maybe Minnesota and Adam Thielen. Cleveland is 6th overall against opposing wide receivers. And we don't know how it's going to shake out. Also, I shouldn't say this because it's arguing against my point here, but you said it briefly already. Adam Thielen is a target hog inside the red zone. That always bodes well for what he can do. But Justin Jefferson is on the field. If Dalvin Cook plays, that's a huge factor. I think if Dalvin Cook is on the field, they're more likely to feed Adam Thielen because it's like, we got to spend time in the box watching for Dalvin Cook. So in a way, I think if Dalvin Cook is out, that kind of leads to Adam Thielen being more covered. Again, as I said, Cleveland is 6 overall. So if Cook is out, I would shy away. Or actually, if Cook is out, I would get Thielen in there. If Cook is playing, I would shy away from Adam Thielen. It's kind of backwards, if it makes sense.
Well, it certainly does, and I think at this point it's leaning that Cook is going to play. I was just looking at these over-unders as well, and generally when I'm at a decision like this, I'm trying to decide between these two guys. I go, what's the highest scoring game? I do think this Vegas has Kansas City at 54.5 point over-under, and the Vikings game at 51.5 points. So not a huge difference between the two of those, but I do think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this Chiefs game. The only concern I have with Travis Kelce is, sometimes teams do a very good job locking him up and locking up Tyreek Hill, and these touchdowns just end up going to the Demarcus Robinsons and the Byron Pringles of this Kansas City Chiefs offense. So, I don't see that there's that volatility with the Vikings offense, but I think there's more points to be scored in the Chiefs. So, that's why they call it a touchdown dance here, is because we're trying to dance inside of this and figure out which one of these guys to go with. And, it is tough. So I think if it's up to me, I'm going in and locking in Travis Kelce for sure in this number 2 spot. And then this last spot, we've narrowed it down. We got Adam Thielen, David Montgomery. This is a pretty tough choice here, and I just want you to give me a final rebuttal here to state your case for you guys, and then we'll go ahead. Maybe we'll get a comment that will help us pick between these two.
Sure. Well, I'll start right now. As we know now, Darnell Mooney is questionable to play. If Mooney is out, another check mark for David Montgomery. And as it stands now, and trust me, I speak from a position of frustration. Allen Robinson is not being utilized the way we all know Allen Robinson should be used. He's not running any routes longer than what, Coach? 10, 15 yards here. They're completely suppressing
if that.
what Allen Robinson can do. And when I say they, I mean coach Matt Nagy. This guy is coaching, and he's an absolute dummy right now. He's almost as bad as Urban Meyer. I don't know which coach is more awful right now, Urban Meyer or Matt Nagy. So you're looking at an offense here who can move the ball against the Detroit Lions defense, who's still finding their own here. They're going to put Derek Barnes in at starting middle linebacker, young kid from this past draft. They cut Jamie Collins, so they're still working things out on the fly. They can get to the quarterback, but all you got to do is hand the ball off, and David Montgomery can be gone. I don't know if you've watched any of Demont so far this season. He looks quick. He looks slippery. He looks like, he's like floating and gliding out there. So of these two players, I'm telling you, Julien, I think it should be David Montgomery for a cornucopia of different factors.
I love the use of cornucopia in that sentence there, Coach. I got to throw it to you here now. What's your rebuttal here? Are you comfy going David Montgomery? We have tried to hit on Adam Thielen twice already on this show and have hit once. I
think we only used Thielen once so far. This is the first week.
Oh, right. Week 2, we
twice.
pivoted to Jefferson, and then we hit him again last week.
Thielen has scored a touchdown in all 3 games he's played. Kirk Cousins has connected, so that could be a move here too. He's going to make it 4 straight, or the streak is bound to break. So good luck with your presentation, Coach.
Okay, so I know you talked about Darnell Mooney be questionable once again. He's been questionable every single week this year, and he's played every single week as well. Part of the case that I don't like, I love Montgomery like the talent this year. I just don't trust Matt Nagy at all. So we've seen him just do stupid games where he's like, I'm going to check the ball 40 times just because like he feels like it. So, and since I think since between the beginning of 2019, Adam Thielen has as many touchdowns as Devontae Adams. So they're the top 2 for wide receivers since 2019 in terms of scoring touchdowns. So that's pretty good company, pretty good odds of him doing it.
Well, in the other case that Thielen has in this scenario is that we got running back, wide receiver, and tight end, which doesn't happen too often. I mean, last week we went 3 wide receivers. We saw that not work for us. The week before we went 2 wide receivers and a running back, and we were able to hit there. So I'm not sure if there's any science behind that, but we kind of spreading out the position groups. And I kind of am inclined to side with Coach here. I mean, I do have a lot of concerns about Matt Nagy. I do think David Montgomery could score in this game. I'm just not sure that I really want to put my money on it, saying this Detroit Lions team is going to get beat up by David Montgomery. I really think that this team comes out and actually, as you mentioned earlier, kind of steamrolls this struggling Bears team. And if David Montgomery is the only person that you can give the ball to, I mean, how difficult is it really going to be for this defense to go ahead and lock them down? And how many opportunities are they going to get down around the goal line is really the big concern. I'm just not sure that they're going to score that many points. So I actually kind of like going Thielen here, get that wide receiver. Chris, are you going to cry if I get in here with Adam, or
no, not at all. I'm going to write it down, and I already wrote it down.
And then you can call us out on it on Sunday. Yeah. We can do a little. Maybe we'll even get on a live feed where you can throw some water in my face or something. Yeah,
that's what I'll do. So I'm going to be watching these 2 players like a hawk on Sunday, and we'll see what happens.
I absolutely love it. I cannot wait for it. So we'll go ahead. We'll lock that in here. And then, we'll get into a Captain Showdown slate here. We'll start with the Monday Nighter. Before we do that, what are we thinking? 4 touchdowns, guys? Just play it safe. I think Derrick Henry's a lock for 2, and I think both these guys can score 1. I'm not super confident that we get 5 out of the 3 of these guys. So, I'm safe going 3.5.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. We'll throw 5 on that. You got anything to add, Chris?
I was going to say 3 is pretty safe. 4 would be a little ambitious, but obviously possible. Kelsey could score twice.
Yeah, well, he certainly could. And I mean, I don't think it's crazy to think that Derrick Henry scores twice, even 3 times, and one of these guys scores once. I don't even think that's too crazy. So I think 3.5 is safer than than it is most weeks. Sometimes I like to go 4.5 just to really get my bang for my buck, but it's really hard to hit those. So I like the 3.5 total touchdowns. We'll go ahead and lock that in. This game is no longer active. Oh, goodness. It did this last week.
Because you didn't have David Montgomery in there. That's why.
Yeah.
They know how foolish. They know how foolish of a decision that was, and they're like, "Well, you know what? We're going to make you rethink it." And the whole time you're getting the contest back up, Chris is going to be yelling and talking about David Montgomery,
This
so
was
that
all
when
planned?
the contest is back up, you're gonna. Yeah, oh yeah. I know all the ins and outs of Monkey Knife Fight.
I've talked to the owners there, so kind of a big deal.
He's in the other room. The owner's in the other room. We're having dinner together this evening to talk about some sort of partnership. And I told him to just
that's
stop
nice.
all data usage on Monkey Knife Fight because
I appreciate it.
Julien
Tell Nick I
did
say
it.
hi, eh?
You got it. Nick! Yeah, he said, okay. Yeah, he said, yeah, he heard you.
All right. Well, Chris, I know you got a split coming up here pretty quick. So we're going to get right into this Sunday night game. I'm just going to pull it up here. Coach, do you want to just go over some of your favorite plays? We're looking at our captain slate here. The Sunday night game is obviously the Tampa Bay versus New England. We got the 49.5 point over under. Tampa is 7-point favorites. And, quite frankly, I think they cover. Who are your favorite plays here?
Oh, this one's a tough one because there's so many good players in general in this game and just trying to predict who's going to do what. And that Rob Gronkowski news is going to change a lot of things too. So if he's not there, a lot of these wide receivers look a lot better. I know some people are getting excited about most people they get excited about OJ Howard. I'm just not super excited about OJ Howard.
Cameron Brate.
Yeah, we've seen Brady kind of have that chemistry with Brady. OJ Howard, he's still, I believe, less than 12 months removed from his Achilles surgery. So, and all we've seen him do this year is pretty much come in and block. So I'm not super excited about that. $1,000 price tag is fine. The running backs are more interesting without Gio Bernard. You got Leonard Fournette, who's $7,600. Ronald Jones is $2,000, which is pretty dang cheap, when you think about it.
It is.
But I think Leonard
might
Fournette
also be punting a flex spot, And if you're going to go for a cheap flex option, I almost want to, dip a little deeper and go and grab like Brandon Bolden for $600. Then even JJ Taylor, at 1,200. But
JJ's not one that made it into my player pool personally. I don't think he takes that James White role.
Yeah, I think that's really what you're banking on is he's just going to see that target volume. If he sees 3 receptions for 30 yards, he's hit on what you're paying for him. But that's really what you're banking on is him taking that role.
But they're not going to use him in pass protection, so he's not going to be frozen. So JJ Taylor, they're not going to use him in pass protection. He's 5'6", 185 pounds. The only guy Bill trusted at this point in time to block on pass protection is Brandon Bolden. We saw him pull Damian Harris because he missed a block and got Mac Jones lit up. I'm not saying play Brandon Bolden. That's a really bold call. But every once in a blue moon, he has those 2 touchdown games. Nelson Aguilar is actually the sneaky play for me this week.
Okay.
$5,600. The way it's been shown to beat Tampa is getting deep over the top. Nelson Aguilar's shown a history of doing that throughout his career. So he's somebody I'm looking at. I've even considered him in the captain spot. And typically, if you put that wide receiver in the captain spot, typically you want the quarterback. This might be the odd week that you don't do it because I'm not I don't hate Mac Jones's price of $9,400, but I'm not super stoked about it either.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Even
a lot
if he
of
hits one touchdown to Nelson Aguilar, do you think the rest of his production is, against those pretty stout Tampa Bay defense is going to be enough to actually, pay off at this price? It's probably unlikely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just so many good options out there. It's one that if I'm building, I'm probably going to take an hour and a half just to mess around with every single different combination that I can come up with these guys that are in my personal player pool. So.
Yeah, I was definitely dabbling around with this pre-show as well, and built a couple different lineups, a couple Bucks lineups, and then I tried to make see what I could do with a couple New England lineups as well, just to see how it plays out. But Chris, who's your favorite play in this matchup? Who are you looking at for the captain spot? I mean, Tom Brady is obviously returning to New England for the first time. I think this guy could, in my opinion, could come out and throw for 5 or 6 touchdowns in this game. He really wants to be, to lay a licking on his former team and on Bill Belichick here. So, but in the captain spot, he's just, he's basically like 40% of your budget. That just, it leaves you so limited elsewhere. So, I have no interest in Tom Brady in that captain spot, but are you looking to get him into your lineup? Or are you looking at someone else? And who are you looking at if you are?
Tom Brady is going to be 60-70% owned, maybe even in that captain spot here. And look, Bill Belichick is some sort of evil genius here. Who knows Tom Brady better than Bill Belichick, but vice versa. Tom Brady knows Bill Belichick like the back of his hand here. So I'm going to fade Tom Brady from the captain spot, and I'm absolutely just dumbfounded, flabbergasted. Nobody mentioned Jacoby Myers. He's my play in the captain spot. This kid had 14 flipping targets last week. Busy day. He's got, he's averaging well over 9 yards a reception here. The only downside here is the kid is yet to score a touchdown. I think that changes Sunday night. I got Jacoby for yet another double-digit target share, albeit right at 10, but I think Jacoby catches 7 or 8 passes here, puts up 80, 90 yards, and I think he finds the end zone once, maybe twice. So to me, Jacoby Myers is definitely my captain in like my big money GPP. And look, at the captain spot, Jacoby is $12,600 compared to TB12, who's almost 20 grand. He's $19,200 here. So I actually love the idea of getting, crazy. I mean, when it comes to single slates, that's what I'm about. I always say that in my videos, and people don't make fun of me about it anymore because there's some sort of track record of limited success.
Because it works.
Because it works. So, to Coach Bruce, to Coach Craig's point here, I don't mind Nelson Aguilar too. Let's get in Jacoby Myers at the captain spot. Let's put in Aguilar right there, and let's run it back. Yeah, and let's run it back with, who can we go next? Hunter Henry, maybe? Tampa Bay's 22nd overall against opposing tight ends here, and I believe Hunter Henry's price must be way down. I'm looking at MVP spots.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry is $4,600. Or you can go Jonnu Smith, who's only $4,000 in a regular spot. But the other offensive weapons here, to be fair with you, I'm going to, if I play 10 single game slates for Sunday Night Football, 7 of them are going to be nothing but New England Patriots, and just because in these contests you have to have at least one player from the other team. So 7 of my 10 lineups are going to be all New England Patriots and 1 Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And then I'll see what I can do about hedging bets, making some chalk lineups and a big GPP, to kind of just get a piece of the pie if it hits here. But I love Jacoby Myers in the captain spot. I love backing him up with Jacoby Myers. And I love the idea of maybe a little bit of Leonard Fournette in there too. New England is 9th overall against opposing running backs, but he's only $7,600. I think that there will be some sort of goal line work to be had here. And again, if we go down the list, I mean, I love, I made all my money on bottom of the barrel. It's what I like to do here. Why can't we also put in Brandon Bolden, as you said? I love that idea, just in case. I mean, if you're throwing $1 or $2, it's only a couple bucks. We spend that in the morning on coffee or an energy drink. Put Brandon Bolden in your lineups just in case. What if he blows up for that 2-3 touchdown game? So to be honest with you, I will have Brandon Bolden in the captain spot in only one line just to make sure, because I'd be sick if we talked about it tonight on a broadcast and then it happens on Sunday night and it's like, damn it, I saw it coming, we all talked about it, but I didn't pull the trigger. I've been in that scenario a million times. So that's the lineup. I love the way that looks. I don't like Antonio Brown in there, but what can you do? I know you're a big Antonio Brown guy, Julien.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a big Antonio Brown guy per se. I just think he is he's underpriced right now, coming off the COVID list, and Tom Brady just he mixes that ball around, and so I'm going to take the kind of the cheapest option and hope for the best, especially if Gronk's out. I think Tom and AB do have that connection. So as much of an awful person as it seems Antonio Brown is to be, I don't know the guy, so I can't really say that. But from what I've seen portrayed in the social media, he doesn't seem like the nicest person around. He still gets fantasy points when he gets out there on Sunday night. So that's kind of the lineup I just threw together. What are you guys' thoughts on getting Tom Brady in? Like, do you think he's too chalky to go and put into? This is a massive GPP. No. I just pulled it up here. This is 10K gridiron games. I think not having Tom Brady in your lineup, it's just going to end up hurting you because so many people are going to have him, and I really do think that he goes out and balls out. So if you don't get him in there, you're already playing from way behind. You guys got anything to add to that?
That just makes me want to fade Tom Brady. When I hear big GPP and everybody's flocking towards a player, I always want to do the opposite. You know why a lot of folks don't play that way? Because they're scared of losing their money. And how much is this contest to get in? Probably $1 or $2.
This one is free.
It's free, yeah. And how many entries can you? What's the max entry? Is it single entry, or can you get like 150 lineups in there? Because again, a lot of folks will fade the absolute chalk because they're scared to lose their money, or they're scared to look foolish in an article or on a broadcast. Scared money doesn't make money. So again, I'm going to have about 10 lineups, and to be fair with you, more than half of them will not have Tom Brady, just on the off chance Bill Belichick really ties them up and hammers it home that, hey, you left, we're great friends, we won Super Bowls, but I'm an asshole and I want to beat you at home.
Well, that's that's certainly possible as well. And I mean, in a free lineup like this, you can take your shots like that. So I'm not hating it. That's that's kind of where my head's at, is that he's gonna likely score the most points in this game. And if he is owned 70% of the 70% of leagues, that means 70% of the people have the most points scored on their team, and I don't. But on the off chance that he does suck and Bill Belichick is able to come out and actually shut them down, then this is going to be a completely different game script. So I guess that really comes down to what kind of story we're telling with these two players here, or with these two teams here. And for me, it's Tampa Bay gets up early, and then New England is trying to play comeback from behind. Excuse me, Coach. Do you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll say with like a free contest though, is as Chris likes to say, I like to get weird when it comes to like free contests. If I'm out there in the free contest, that's where I'm throwing Nelson Aguilar in the captain spot, because if he hits, how many people are going to have Nelson Aguilar in the captain in this contest? Like 4%, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. Yeah. 4% would be a lot. In a free contest, you have to have a damn near perfect line. So to me, I'm fading Tom Brady in a free entry. How many people are in this one? 500,000, something like that. I mean,
right now it's only like 4,000 people.
Yeah.
But probably it will
be
like 80,000 or so.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm game for it. Let's go ahead and pull Tom from the lineup. So what does that do? We got Brandon Bolden at 600. So we've got, a lot of money to play with here. With having Nelson Aguilar there. Do you guys want to see what happens if we throw Nelson Aguilar in that captain spot and see what we're working with? Boom.
So and another guy that I kind of like that I don't think is going to be like super popular is Jonnu Smith, because he just really, like, he hasn't done anything this year. They've been using him kind of weird. He's been playing in line a lot more, and Hunter Henry's been playing like kind of out in the slot. Hunter Henry's been in the game, closer to 80% of the time. Jonnu's been like 50-60% of snaps. But if he goes off, it's another case where like not a lot of people are going to have him too. And you can say what you want about the Tampa Bay linebackers. A lot of people think they're very good. Levante David's pretty good in coverage, but Devin White throughout his career so far has not been very good in coverage, despite how athletic he is.
So you like throwing Jonnu in here for $4,000. I mean, we've got a bunch of money left over. We might have to pivot off of Brandon Bolden because we've got so much extra money to spend there. I do like adding Jacoby Myers into the lineup here, and then wonders if we're adding all these pass catchers. At some point, we have to add one of these. Yeah, we got to add one of these quarterbacks, right? So are we targeting Mac Jones here then? And let's see what we got. So we got $10,000 left over. We could go Jacoby Myers. We could go with Gronk if he ends up playing. I mean, this is basically a New England lineup, right? We got 4-2 in favor of New England. We've got Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin. We could probably go ahead and grab Mike Evans. Oh no, not quite. But we could go Leonard Fournette as well, who I actually don't hate in this lineup either. As Chris alluded to earlier, I think there could be some touchdowns to come on the ground in this game, and I think odds are on Leonard Fournette scoring those. I'm starting him as Scotty Fishbowl this week, so maybe it's wishful thinking, but fingers crossed. Where are you guys at between those couple guys?
I don't mind it. And here's the thing. The number one biggest faux pas I've seen people think, especially in a single game entry, they are a nervous wreck that they have so much money left over. I don't give a crap. I pay no mind to that. If I build the lineup in a single slate how I like to, and I learned this playing baseball, there's sometimes I have $15,000-$16,000 left and I don't care, because the moment you start tinkering, you take out those gut plays in favor of, because Godwin's like $10,000 $4,000. I got to have him in. No, you don't. If you build the lineup how you like to see it, who cares if you got 10 grand left over? Who cares if you got $4,000 left over? If it fits in the mindset that you sought after heading into it, then leave it alone.
Yeah, I like it. And in this case as well, I think, we kind of stick to that 4-2 rule here. And so for me, it's between Antonio Brown and Leonard Fournette, and then there is the odd case you can go 5-1 in the odd chance that New England, gets up in this game or gets up earlier, has a defensive score or something along those lines. And Damian Harris gets super involved. And, the issue is really the goal line work. And if he's going to be able to go and produce down there, and that's why I'm kind of fading away from him there. But in terms of Leonard Fournette versus Antonio Brown, Coach, where are you at with these two?
So for me, if this was my line, if I'm playing in a free contest and we got the top 4 guys there, my 2 other guys here would be Leonard Fournette and Mike Evans. Because we're playing in this free contest, I want as many high variance guys as possible to leverage my team and get them over the top. High leverage guy, Mike Evans. High leverage guy, Leonard Fournette. And if Fournette's the pass catching running back in this game, I don't know how many people are actually going to be playing him at $7,600 because it seems a little pricey for him. But if he's the pass catching back, they're coming from behind. He's getting some dump off passes. That's going to help him out as well. And then Mike Evans, we know he can have 2 touchdowns on any given week.
Yeah. I think Chris Godwin does profile as that more of a target volume hog. But when you're playing a large GPP like this, you really want to shoot for the fences and swing hard, as they say. So go ahead and we'll lock Mike Evans in there himself, and then go in and lock in Leonard Fournette. So that's the line we've got. Nelson Aguilar in that captain spot, hoping for that 2 touchdown game. Johnny Smith as well. As Coach said, is definitely a guy who can go ahead and get involved. Jacoby Myers, Mac Jones, Mike Evans, and Leonard Fournette. Go ahead and lock that in. And we just made our Sunday night football lineup, trying to go a little contrarian and not take Tom Brady. So we threw that in there. Chris, I know you got to get out of here, man. So I just wanted to say thanks so much for joining us, for talking over this Monkey Knife Fight morning slate, and then also getting into that Sunday nighter. Unfortunately, we did run a little over time. I blame all the injuries in the NFL because
damn you, Coach. What the heck, Coach?
We got to talk.
7 minutes late for the 10 p.m. broadcast, so I'm just going to have them message you and say, know what? I didn't want to be rude. I'm a nice guy, and no, it's no big deal.
Well, Chris, on that note, real quick before you get out of here, I noticed we have a comment in the questions, and this is geared right up your alley. In your full day slate DFS lineup, are you worried about playing Josh Allen, Diggs, and Knox in the same lineup, or
No.
You think all 3 of these guys can hit? Yeah,
Absolutely
I
not. All 3 of them are going to hit, and if you want to get wild, take out Dawson Knox and put in Tommy Sweeney. Buffalo plays Houston. Houston is 26th overall against opposing tight ends, and Tommy Sweeney, $4,100 on FanDuel, only $2,500 on DraftKings. That's the move. That's straight from bottom of the barrel, week 4.
Scraping way down there. I love it. All right. Well, thanks so much, Chris. This has been a pleasure. Make sure you guys, you're following Chris on Twitter at Detroit Beastie, over on Team Riser Fall as well. And also Woodward Sports. You're doing some work over there as well. So a very, very busy man. You're putting out that bottom of the barrel article that comes out every single week, scraping the bottom for the best DFS content. Thanks so much for joining us, brother.
I'll see you boys next week. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you as well. Always a pleasure when we get together with Chris. Coach, we have one more lineup to build. Here we've got the Monday Night Football game, which obviously features our the Kansas or Las Vegas Raiders. I'm blanking.
Raiders and the Chargers, guys.
And the Chargers playing against each other. And the over-under of this bad boy is 51.5 points. There's a lot of pretty chalky plays here. One thing I noticed that I think I wasn't sure I'd ever see, but is Keenan Allen being priced at 8,800 and Mike Williams being priced at 10,200. Considerable amount more than Keenan, and he's balled out in the first couple of weeks. So let me ask you, before we get into any of these actual players, do you believe this Mike Williams breakout is actually happening, or do you think he's going to regress?
I actually believe in it. I think the only way he regresses at this point in time is if he gets hurt. we've seen him pretty much be used wrong for like the first 3 or 4 years of his career. They're just big body, go down the field, make contested catches. They used him like Kenny Galladay for the longest time. Is all they did. Now they're actually using him like closer to what he was used at Clemson. He's more of a complete receiver than people give him credit for, and he's finally in a system that's actually using him properly. Thanks, Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, it's definitely a preseason miss of mine. And so far he looks, as legit as they get. He's seen 7+ targets in every single game this week. He's got, this relationship with Justin Herbert, a young electric quarterback. Really, like you put it best when you said the only way he regresses is if he gets hurt, because, the target share is there. The offense is there. I mean, really, they're just going to keep scoring points. He's not going to score 2 touchdowns every week, but he's getting enough volume. And like you said, it's not like he's just getting, chuck the ball deep downfield. He's actually, producing, even close to the line of scrimmage and going and getting those fantasy points. So let's go ahead and build this lineup. This one is, let me just make sure here. Yeah, this one's just a 25-cent contest. So basically what I go and do with these, I'll build a lineup like this. I'll build a few of these different lineups, kind of the different ones that we talk about. I'll go and build a bunch of those and then enter them all in 25-cent contests. And if some of them hit, then you can, build your bankroll that way. And if you miss, then, you're really not spending too much money to go ahead and do it. It's an easy way to, get involved in DFS and not have to invest too much or anything off the hop. So that's why I chose this one. And this pays out, I think, the top 20% of the 237 people here. So it's not a super big contest or anything. We can be a little chalkier with our lineup, but we don't have to have all of our crazy plays hit. So in that captain spot, let me ask you: are you looking at either of these quarterbacks who in the captain spot are priced at Justin Herbert $1,600 and $800? And Derek Carr at $16,200, or are you maybe looking at Austin Eckler, Darren Waller, or even Keenan Allen? One of these guys who's kind of slipped in price because of a lack of production over the first couple weeks.
So I think you can definitely make a case to play both quarterbacks in the MVP spot, the captain spot, whatever you want to call it. I guess captain spot on DraftKings, MVP on FanDuel. I always get those two mixed up, especially when we do our fantasy league contest. I'm talking in there and I'm like, oh, captain spot. Oh, wait, FanDuel calls it MVP. But I think they're definitely in play. I have them in play. Mike Williams is in play. Austin Eckler is in play for me. Darren Waller. Keenan Allen a little bit. The health kind of, if he's healthy and good enough to go, then maybe. But we also seen him say he was healthy last year, play a couple snaps and then just not play the rest of the game too. So he might just be better off fading him in this contest, honestly. Bryan Edwards is actually somebody I sneakily like because he's been decent so far this year. He leads the league in receiving yards in the fourth quarter and overtime, but he's also played 2 overtime periods.
He just comes alive in the final stretches of the game. And yeah, he has played 2 overtime games, which is pretty crazy. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah. They've had 2 overtime games in the first 3 weeks. I mean, how many times has that ever happened in the NFL?
Well, it's like at the end of the game, Derek Carr's brain just clicks. Oh yeah, I have this guy to throw to. But give him some credit too. He had a couple big plays that got called back too. He had one that would have been a touchdown that got called back for holding on the offensive line. So the potential's out there. We've seen him make some pretty good flash catches and stuff like that too. I think if you're in if you're in a contest where you're not betting a lot, I don't have a problem playing him there.
Well, let's see what happens if we throw him into the captain spot, because I think that would give us the flexibility to put both quarterbacks in there, and then and then one of these 3 playmakers here. I like Eckler myself. He's a guy who I think is slightly undervalued here. I'm more comfortable throwing Eckler in my lineup than I am Mike Williams. But if Keenan is out, then obviously Mike Williams does get that boost. Eckler's also going to see increased target share, and he is $800 or $600 cheaper. So, out of those 3 or even 4, if we're talking Keenan Allen as well, which one are you most interested in?
In theory, you could actually put Mike Williams and Austin Eckler, I think, together, but then we'd have to play a really dirt cheap. We'd have to play a real dirt cheap guy. And I'm not crazy about the dirt cheap guys on this slate. Josh Palmer is probably the best one. And that's probably assuming that Keenan Allen doesn't play, because I think he's played about 15 to 20% of snaps most weeks. So he's not out there a lot. He's not really doing too much.
Mm-hmm. So I also like Jalen Guyton in this one as well. If Keenan is out, he's a guy as well at $2,400.
Yeah, if he's out, I do like Jalen Guyton quite a bit. And maybe KJ Hill's even a little bit sneaky because KJ Hill is more of a slot wide receiver. Keenan Allen's been known to play a slot quite a bit. Keenan Allen hasn't played a lot of snaps this year. So I think he's $200 on this slate. Don't quote me on that, but
let me see.
He could play that slot role because Guyton's not Guyton and Palmer really aren't slot wide receivers. So they're probably more likely to play on the outside. You could see KJ Hill mixing a little bit more there. Maybe you see a little bit more of these tight ends too between Jared Cook and Donald Parham. Donald Parham's really been used really weird this year because he's never been known as like this big blocking tight end, and they have him playing in line like all the time. And Jared Cook's kind of the one that's out wide or in the
running routes. Yeah.
So it's kind of the reverse of what you would think. I mean, Jared Cook's not the best blocker in the world either. They're pretty similar, honestly. One's just like 10 years older than the other one. and Donald Parham's a couple inches taller, but I don't know, honestly. It's a very condensed slate for me, I think. Let's see. Let's
pull this down here. Another guy I
have 13 gate players in play for this slate on the DraftKings side. So I do like Daniel Carlson, the kicker. He's been doing very well lately. I don't know if you've seen his little media conference where he was making fun that he played fantasy football and his opponent had Daniel Carlson and he lost to himself essentially. So that was a pretty good one.
That's hilarious though.
He's just making fun out of it. He's like, damn, I shouldn't have kicked so many field goals. But,
that's so funny.
Yeah, I think he's in play. Right now I don't have Henry Ruggs or Hunter Renfrow in my lineup, but I think there's lineups you can build with them and plug them in if you need to. There's just not a lot of low-end value that I really like. And some of these guys, typically when the Raiders are in these primetime games, the Zay Jones, the Alec Ingold, they're priced up more than they should be. So it's not like you really want to play them either. Even though Zay Jones always seems to have the touchdown in these primetime games when he plays like 7 snaps. It's really weird.
Yeah, he does. Well, and he gets involved in the passing game as well, Alec Ingold does. But really is a fullback for them, and at priced up at $1,600. It's just he's a tough guy to go get.
If he's $600, if he's $800,
exactly, then it's fine.
For 20 yards, it's 5 points. It's okay. But now he's at $1,600, so you really want him to have. Well, the 5 points would still be okay, but it's not anything that's putting your lineup over the edge either.
Exactly. Let's see. And I mean, you could go after Foster Moreau or even Donald Parham, who I think offer a similar upside who are just a little bit cheaper in terms of their DFS value. So
both those tight ends are in play, but you're pretty much looking for a tight end, or you're pretty much looking for a touchdown out of either one of those two. And that's been something they've been known to do in their career, but it's kind of a 50-50 chance whether or not it happens in this game for sure.
Certainly.
I do like Darren Waller quite a bit in this line though, because the Chargers linebackers are not that good in coverage. I guess they could stick Derwin James on him, and then maybe we have a whole different story. Maybe Chris Harris mixes in with him too if he plays. It just depends how they use.
Well, looking at that, if we do pull Mike Williams out of the lineup and we throw Darren Waller in there, that leaves us with 1,600, and then we could go with a Raiders 4-2 here with Alec Ingold or Foster Moreau. That does free it up a little bit. We just talked about these two, but is that something that interests you? Are you like Darren Waller more than Mike Williams in this game? Because that's really what this ends up coming down to.
That's a good question. It's a really good question. I think Darren Waller might have the better matchup. So that makes him a little bit more favorable. He has the better price tag, that's for sure already. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this, honestly. So this is another hard slate, honestly.
It is,
Part of the news is probably going to come down to whether Josh Jacobs plays or not. If he plays, I really don't want any of these running backs. The only one I would consider is Kenyon Drake, but even at $5,400, he's overpriced because he's just getting passing game work.
I don't think I'm interested in any of these running backs, to be honest. I'd rather be wrong about them than be hoping that Kenyon Drake can get into the end zone, or Josh Jacobs. He has been good around the goal line, but it just is. It's honestly ugly. Like, it feels gross plugging any of those guys into your lineup. But I do like where we're at here with Bryan Edwards. Sorry, what was that?
I wonder what happens if we put Jalen Guyton in the captain spot. And then
Get freaky with it.
Yeah, because you could make your little narrative that he gets deep on a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then we can go and throw Brian Edwards.
That's not a bad idea. I think that's a 3-3, right?
Yeah, that's a 3-3. Yeah,
it's not the worst 3-3 though, because Eckler should be involved regardless.
And I mean, I do expect this to be a pretty high scoring affair on both sides of this game. So I think both these offenses are going to be rolling. We really have the key cogs in Justin Herbert. Where even if it's Mike Williams night, Justin Herbert's still getting a good bunch of those points. And if Jalen Guyton does break loose for a touchdown, that really puts us over the top. And we did see this last week, though, when we had Trent Sherfield in the captain spot, he goosed us. And had we, gone and put Kyle Juszczyk there, we would have been in the money. So, taking these risks here is, obviously that's exactly what it is. There's a level of risk that's involved. But do you feel comfortable with it?
I'll say this too, is Sherfield was kind of a stretch anyways. Like we seen him playing, but he's kind of a gamble, and he only ended up playing 2 snaps in that game. Ayuk played 86% of snaps. At least we know Jalen Guyton's going to be on the field, unless he gets hurt. So we've seen him be the number 3 wide receiver. We were kind of between Sherfield and Mohamed Sanu being the number 3 wide receiver for the 49ers, but Mohamed Sanu hadn't done anything at all pretty much all year. Oddly enough, he had a couple catches last week, but that's a whole nother story. But let's see.
We don't have to get into Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah, but at least we know Guyton's going to be on the field. And then Guyton, if we have Keenan Allen out, he gets better as well. Like I said, if Keenan Allen's out, maybe you can look at PJ Hill, or not KJ Hill. Excuse me. PJ Hall's a different player.
PJ Hall. Really throwing me a curveball there.
I combined PJ Hall and KJ Hill together there, but yeah, I think he could be in play, honestly, playing a little bit of slot there. It's definitely an interesting slate. It's probably not one I want to spend too much on. I think the Sunday night slate's a little bit better. There's a lot more options on the Sunday night slate. So if you want to go in and do a 20 max for 10 cents, 25 cents, you spend $2, $5. There's a lot of different lineups that you can combine there. This one is a little bit more straightforward. I think that you probably have 5-6 lineups that you build and you probably feel comfortable with at that time.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, there's a core group of people that I really like, and we've got a bunch of them in here. Some notables that I'll throw out there is I don't hate getting Hunter Renfrow into my lineup here. I think just his involvement in Derek Carr, clearly trusts him. I do have a little bit of concerns about this matchup, but as a guy, if I'm building a Raiders lineup, I'm comfortable getting in there. Is priced similarly, to guys like Kenyon Drake, who I do not feel comfortable with at all, and then it is cheaper than Henry Ruggs and Peyton Barber and Josh Jacobs, and so I think he's probably gonna be in a similar production tier to those guys. And then, the deeper guys that we talked about, Donald Parham, Foster Moreau, you can take a dart throw on any of these guys, even Josh Palmer, especially if Keenan's going to be out. Josh Palmer will be another guy who is on the field. So really I feel pretty good with where we're at. And then, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, those are going to be 2 guys that I do like to get into my lineups, but they're going to be, pretty heavily owned as well. And so when I'm playing in a larger GPP, as Chris alluded to earlier, I'm probably going to fade those ones in particular. They'll probably be owned 50 to 60%. I suspect in larger leagues like that. So I do like where we're at with Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, and Darren Waller. Those are really like our key cogs, and Derek Carr obviously as well, as the QB9 on the season right now. Just been. I'm not 100% sure, but I know after week 3 he was leading the league in passing yards. So I kind of expect that to continue, and then we got guys like Brian Edwards in there as well, who I think are going to be beneficiaries of that, along with Darren Waller. So. I'm pretty comfortable with this lineup. If you are, let's go ahead and lock it in. You think so?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, for a quarter too, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're breaking the bank or anything like that.
Yeah, you're gonna have nights like, was it last night? Yeah, last night was Thursday Night Football. Losing track of my days here, but you're gonna have nights where CJ Uzoma goes off for 2 touchdowns. You're gonna have nights where Dalton Schultz randomly goes off for 2 touchdowns. So these showdown slates, anything can happen on any given night, essentially. So just get in there, build what you feel comfortable with. If you're using an optimizer, just kind of play around with the optimizer and the rules that you're setting and just try to figure out the best lineup that works for you. And if you're using an optimizer, don't just go in there, hit optimize once, and then copy the first 20 lineups that show in, because you're not going to win that way.
Well, that's, but hopefully
you might win some money, but you're probably not going to hit big ever that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to assume that a lot of people are using those optimizers and are building the same lineups you are. So, you really try to play the probability game and differentiate yourself from the player pool. All right, Coach. That I think that pretty much sums it up for tonight. We're at an hour and 23 minutes, which is better than last week. I'll throw that out there. We were we were up at like an hour and 30 minutes, hour 40 minutes last week.
I think
I enjoyed every single minute of it. I was just about to say, as I have this one, it's always a pleasure when I get to get together with you and Chris as well and talk some DFS. This one's been a blast, man. So you got anything to add before we get out of here?
Do you want to answer some of these questions real quick? There's a couple of them on the side.
Oh yeah, I do. Thank you, Coach. So we've got Woods or Pittman at flex. I'm still going Robert Woods. I just think it's been the Cooper Kupp show. Teams are gonna. I mean, it can't continue forever. I know he's going to be, he is still Matt Stafford's number one target, but I do think that Robert Wood gets involved. He's seen a 90% target share at this point. Eventually he's going to have a big game here or there. And I just do not trust the Colts passing game whatsoever. I have so many concerns with Carson Wentz and I have him as my 29th ranked quarterback this week. And how am I, going to go and throw his weapons into my flex spot when I'm not even comfortable, playing him even in 2 quarterback leagues. So, that's where I lean. Where are you at?
Yeah, I put Robert Woods in as well. I think he's somewhere between 20 and 22 in the wide receiver range for me. I don't have it up right now. And then Michael Pittman's down closer to 40. I know that for sure. So it's a pretty easy situation for me, I think.
Mm-hmm. I've Robert Woods at 24.
I'm only playing Colts in DFS, honestly, and the Colts wide receiver that I'm playing in DFS is actually Paris Campbell, because he's $3,200 on DraftKings, $200 over the minimum, and then $4,700 on FanDuel, $200 over the minimum there as well. We've seen him have good games when he's healthy. He had a large snap percentage last week. I think this is going to be the game for him. I do love Michael Pittman Jr. though, but for DFS, I'm going where the cheap value is this week.
Yeah, I dig it, and I'm kind of the same way. And ultimately, I'm mostly just staying away as well. This one we got Ryan. He's asking Sutton or Devonta Smith at the flex. I kind of answered this earlier when I had Sutton. In a similar tier with Tyler Lockett. So I lean Sutton. I kind of explained that earlier. Where are you at with these two, Coach? I'm not sure where you have those two ranked.
So I do have Sutton ahead of him right now in my rankings, and I don't know.
It's not by a lot. I mean,
it's the Eagles' offense. It's their offensive line. They're missing 3 starters once again. We seen last week they just got second and long, third and long every single time, and everybody acts like Jalen Hurts played terrible. He did not play terrible. What are you supposed to do when you get 9 holding calls, 7 drops, and 3 wide receivers falling down? Anybody's going to look bad in that situation. And if they do that against the Chiefs, they're just going to get run out of the building. Like no joke.
I mean, we saw what the Cowboys were able to do to them with, without Michael Gallup, and they just tore them apart. They absolutely destroyed that Eagles defense. And I don't think that this week it's going to be a whole lot different. So, I have my concerns. I don't think I'm really starting Devonta Smith in really any leagues. The only ones I have him in a couple rebuild leagues where I drafted him, in this year's draft. And so I'm playing him there. But in terms of, really expecting great fantasy production, I feel a lot more comfortable with Sutton.
Mm-hmm. And I think they both actually have difficult matchups. Marlon Humphrey, obviously, for Cortland Sutton. And then Devonta Smith, it looks like Chark Ward's going to play. And if he plays, that makes a huge difference for Kansas City secondary.
Yeah. All right, and our last question here, Coach. DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams, or Najee Harris, pick 2. I mean, it's pretty much impossible to sit any of these guys, right? You have a serious luxury at this point. So I guess the question really is, which one of them is least likely to blow up this week? Which one, or which one is least likely to fail? I guess. And so, it's hard to shy away from Najee Harris's 19 targets last week. It's pretty difficult to put a running back like that on your bench. And then, Mike Williams and DeAndre Hopkins are both, have been top 10 wide receivers, even top 8 wide receivers while they've been on the field this year. So I don't think you can go wrong. Close your eyes and just bench one, and you're going to be happy regardless. If I had to pick, it would be Mike Williams. That's the guy who I just don't feel as confident because I've seen DeAndre Hopkins do it forever, and I know that Najee Harris's volume is going to be there. But then again, like we just talked about what Mike, and if Keenan Allen's not in the game, I mean, you have to play Mike Williams. You can't not play him in that situation. And if that happens, then it's, it probably ends up being Najee, who I think is, the least likely to score out of these 3 guys. And that's really what it comes down to. This is a tough start sit because all these guys are just so good at football.
I mean, it honestly comes down to what you think of DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously he practiced this week instead of not practicing like he did last week. So the rib injury is there. Last week he's more of a distraction, but is he going to be more of a distraction again this week and just kind of take Jalen Ramsey off of somebody else? That could happen too. So like I have him at wide receiver 15. I have Mike Williams at wide receiver 19. Najee Harris, I think, is like running back 9 this week, but that was before I knew Juju was going to play as well. So I might have to tinker with that a little bit too, because I don't think he gets as many targets this week if Juju's playing. First of all, Big Ben's not going to throw 58 passes or whatever it was again.
Yeah.
And that Packers defense, they can't rush the quarterback. Even if the Steelers offensive line isn't very good, the Packers rush just isn't there right now. Yeah. So at least Big Ben should have a little bit of time in the pocket. So honestly, it comes down to Hopkins and Harris for me. I think if you believe Hopkins is more of a distraction and Ramsey's going to take him away, then you bench Hopkins. If you think he's going to be involved and pay off, then you just bench Harris this week, because I don't think it's repeatable. But I'd be really interested to see who else they have for their other 2 running backs.
Yeah, that Najee Harris is a guy that you're considering benching. I do have him as RB10 this week, and as you kind of alluded to, it's pretty difficult to put that guy on your bench when you have these options. And as for DeAndre Hopkins, I think he will be involved. I think he practiced all week. I don't think he's just going to be a decoy. If he was practicing all week, this team's going to go out there and use one of the best playmakers they have in the passing game for Kyler to pass the ball to. So, I think you're sitting pretty when those are your options, and you got to pick one of those guys to sick. I think they're all going to have great weeks.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at like the running backs too. There's so many running backs that are banged up this week. I'm like, who are the 2 running backs that you have ahead of Najee Harris? Because I just don't know who it is, honestly, unless you already played like Joe Mixon in one of your running back slots, I guess.
Or James Robinson, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
That's possible.
There's not many people. I had Najee Harris at running back 8 before Juju was going to play. He's probably going to move down to about 11 for me. So if you have 2 of the 10 running backs ahead of him, I guess then you start those 2 ahead of him. But I don't know how many people have 2 of those 10 running backs ahead of him.
No kidding. Yeah, I mean,
and that's assuming Dalvin Cook even plays.
Yeah, exactly. No kidding. Maybe it's guys like Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, who I actually have behind Najee Harris, but are kind of in a similar tier, and they see them just a little bit higher. But it'd be interesting to see that. If Eli Sharpie, if you're still there in the comments, let us know who your other running backs are. But yeah, before we get out of here, Coach, I just want to give a shout out to Viridian Global, our merchandisers. You can use promo code TPA and get 50 or 10% off your first purchase there. Got this wonderful True North hat there. My Gibby shirt. I'm still waiting on that one to come in the mail. Getting it up here into Canada, the shipping is a little bit slower than it is down south. I talked about it last week. I was super excited. I thought I was going to wear my new Viridian Global gear on this podcast, but it wasn't here yet. But that is not a testament to their company. I blame Canada Post because everything seems to be slow right now. I ordered some beard cream, Coach. I ordered some beard cream on Amazon the other day, and it's, this was like 2 weeks ago and hasn't showed up yet. So just putting it out there. Definitely not on the guys over at Viridian Global. Go check it out. Use that promo code. They've got all the kinds of t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, toques, hats, tank tops, mugs, stickers. I mean, you name it, they've got it over there. Definitely go check it out. And and as for you, Coach, I mean, go check out his podcast and YouTube page over at Coach Craig Sports on YouTube. He's releasing 5 episodes a week where he goes over six episodes a week. See, Coach, you've even outdone yourself. You've got waiver wire shows. You've got your dollar store stacks, which I know you dropped earlier today. That was a good read myself for some DFS content. So yeah, do you got anything else to add to that?
So just real quickly, Monday's the top performers. Tuesday's the waiver wires. Wednesday is the start sit for the Thursday night football game. Thursday is looking at the showdown slate for the Thursday night football game. And then Friday is the dollar store stacks. So that's, cheap quarterbacks with wide receiver options or tight end options that you can stack with them for relatively cheap. There are some interesting names out there this week. There's some guys that people, you say Jimmy Garoppolo and Brandon Ayuk, and people just think, ugh, but nobody's going to be playing them. If you play them in your lineup, you have Derrick Henry. That's what sets your lineup over the edge in a GPP tournament. So if these guys pay off, like I said in my video, if Brandon Ayuk catches that second touchdown on Sunday Night Football, he's at least $5,800 this week, and he's at $5,000 right now. Mm-hmm. So there's value there. DFS is about finding the value and playing it. And for me personally, I attack matchups. So he's going against Trey Flowers. Trey Flowers has not been very good this year or last year. So that's where I'm going to go. And then Saturday is tomorrow. So it's the start since it's for all the other 30 remaining teams yet to play. Obviously, Friday night, I'm on here with you. I'm probably going to guest on some other podcasts here and there as well, too. Was on the Gold Jacket podcast on Tuesday. That was a great episode, too. I think we went a little bit long over there, too. But always fun talking with Jim and Connor as well. But I did just announce the other day, too, that my Patreon page is up as well. So essentially what that is there's two different tiers. So the first tier is your regular patron tier. So that one's essentially $2 a month. You get access to the snap count spreadsheets for offense and defense for every single player, for every single team. They got through each tab. Everything's all in one page. So you're not going on Pro Football Reference, clicking on Jonnu Smith, looking at all his things, then going back, clicking on Hunter Henry and seeing all of his. Because it'll show you week to week for each player, but it doesn't show you like everything as a team. So you can see different trends and stuff that's spotting too. Next week on the True North website, I'm also doing a snap count article as well. Got a little sidetracked there, but then I have my matchup sheet as well. So it's essentially a moving depth chart for part of the tabs. It's got data from PFF for linebackers from last year, data from quarterbacks from player profile from last year, all in one thing. And then I go through every week and put the wide receivers in where they lined up: slot, left wide receiver, right wide receiver. Do the same thing for the corner: slot, left, right. And then for the tight ends, inline, slot, and out wide. So you can see trends of where these guys are playing. So like I've talked about a lot in some of these podcasts, I'm like, Justin Jefferson lines up on the left side of the field more often than not, and Denzel Ward lines up on the right side of the defense more often than not. So they're pairing against each other. That's why I like guys like Adam Thielen this week, because I know where the weakness is. So there's that. Some of that you can trend week to week. Some of it, they move guys around too. But there's certain teams where this corner only plays on this side, this wide receiver only plays on this side, and you can tell that ahead of time. So I think that's very useful too. And then like I have a grand total, and then if you look up, when you click on the total, it'll show you on the top. So it'll show like 5 plus 10 plus 2 plus whatever. So the first one in there's week 1. The second one in there's week 2. Like it's just the easiest way for me to
I think next week we might have to give a little promo out here on the point after. So, give a little preview on how it all works, because that's a super valuable resource, man.
Yeah, so I got that, and then once we get closer to draft season, I'm going to have my 2022 NFL grading spreadsheet in there as well. So like most positions I grade based on 8 categories, give them a score 1 through 8. And then there's an average score, a total combined score. And then I rank how I rank the prospects. I started working on the wide receivers right now. It's an interesting class, honestly. It really is. But I'm making the notes for that too. You'll have access to all my notes. Some of these guys I'll be making videos about as well and have these private videos. So I can say, hey, we're talking about DeMonte Demas from Maryland, who's actually playing tonight. And I can go through, he has above average speed. He's got a long frame. He's got X, Y, Z, and just kind of explain it too. And then as well, I'm going to be doing a stream for the regular ones, just going through some of the snap count trends or anything like that really stood out to me from the week. Probably going to do that like Tuesday or Wednesday. So that's going to be live, and it's going to be private for the Patreons, obviously. But like the first couple of weeks, I might just get it out there so people have a chance to see it as well. Then the other tier is the DFS Plus Patreon tier. So you get the spreadsheet that I often reference when we're on this show. It's got the Thursday night football on there, Monday night football, Sunday night football for the single game slates. So I got my player pool, my core captain picks, and then I also have FanDuel for the main slate, DraftKings for the main slate, and I did put Super Draft on there too as well. Some of the multipliers that I do like. Still not great at Super Draft. You know, I'm still new to Super Draft, but I get the ones on there that really stand out to me. Because on Super Draft, you just need the players that come up with the most points by their multiplier. Essentially, it's kind of hard to explain to people at first, but if anybody actually has questions about it, I can do that as well. But you get all that, first of all, and then I'm probably going to do 1 or 2 streams a week. So I'm going to do one stream probably at the beginning of the week, just go through, look at some prices, make notes of guys who either had crazy price changes, they dropped or they went up, guys that I'm looking at, guys that I'm targeting. And then probably Saturday evening, I'm going to do a stream as well and just go through, talk about some core picks, answer any questions that people might have as well. And then, you know, last year I did the NBA DFS as well. So I'll be having the regular videos on my channel, just going through the players that I like at each position, but then I'll have my player pool and core picks on there as well. So that one for the DFS Plus is $5 a month. But if you use that for DFS, like you're probably going to get your money out of it, honestly.
Yeah, I'm
especially
sure
like,
especially
especially when you consider NBA, like you have 30 slates in a month.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't take much to make $5 back in the DFS world. So I will definitely be subscribing myself to the Patreon. Thank you for bringing that up. And just quickly before we get out of here, I just want to shout out the True North pod earlier. You brought up the Gold Jackets pod. I just want to give a quick shout out to the True North pod, who had Chuba Hubbard on today to do an interview. Very, very exciting. A fellow Canadian, a couple Canucks interviewing a fellow Canadian. So go check it out. You can find them on Spotify at the True North podcast. You can find them on Apple Podcast, as well as on the TNFF podcast network on YouTube, where you may or may not be watching or listening to this video right now. But yeah, definitely go check it out. We got the Gold Jackets podcast as well. And then every Thursday night, we have the SODFS podcast, where they go over the Sunday main slate, go through every game, pick out their favorite players and price points. Pretty similarly to what we do here, where we build some lineups. They don't build these lineups necessarily, but they go through those players and talk about a bunch of different stuff. It's a super valuable resource. So we are pumping out all kinds of content here at True North. And make sure you go and check out those pods. Make sure you check out Coach's own personal YouTube page at Coach Craig Sports. Again, if you missed it earlier, that's where you can find him. He's pumping out 6 episodes a week. Absolutely fantastic. And just got that Patreon set up for the very cheap price of $5 a month. You can get all of his research and information that he dives into, which is it's pretty much invaluable at this point. You're really going to make that money back. I can't say enough about the help that Coach has given me in the DFS world. So thank you. Make sure you go check it out. Do you have anything to add before we log off?
Yeah, and like just saying, with the 6 videos a week, and once NBA DFS gets started, it'll be 13 videos a week, honestly. So I'll be doing NBA stuff every week, or every day, I mean. And then last but not least, the only thing else I got left is Sports Me. It's an app. It's out there. So essentially this app, it's face-to-face discussion. So you can make a quick 30-second video. You can start a discussion. You can reply to a discussion. Just talk sports. You can talk sports. You can debate sports. You can discuss it. You can ask for start-sit advice. You can do so many different things. It's it's an up-and-coming app, obviously. There's a lot of people in the industry that are good people out there, and they just want to have a nice discussion. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to these people. It's really easy. You just go on your phone, go to your Google Play Store, I don't know what Apple calls theirs anymore, but you go on there, you download the app, you make an account real quick, and all you got to do is click a button, make a video. Hey, you could make a video. Should I start Rondell Moore or Christian Kirk? And somebody can come in and reply to it. There's different people on there. I know Smokey's one of them that he's doing on Sundays, start sit questions as well. So he'll put like out there, hey, anybody that's got start sit questions, just come here. And it's just a little bit more of a human element to it. It's easy to ask start sit questions and just respond via text, but being able to see somebody's face and respond to them and interact with people you might not otherwise interact with too. So, and there's going to be some bigger names on there too as well. They're working on getting some different athletes and stuff on there as well. So you can contact, them too. I think they said Andrew Wiley, who played for the Chiefs, was on there last year too as well. So you could ask him a question. What's it like blocking for Patrick Mahomes? What's it like playing for Andy Reid? Just so many different things that this platform can do. And it's only going to get better.
Yeah, that's very cool. I actually haven't had a chance to check out the Sports Me app myself, but I have heard about it, and it sounds pretty awesome. And a recommendation from Coach Craig is a good one in my book. So I'll definitely be getting on there. Like you said, SportsMe. You can just search that in your app store. It's right there. Download it on your phone.
Otherwise, I think you can go to like Get Sports.
I'm sure there's a website
something like that too.
Yeah.
If you just Google Sports Me, you'll probably find it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Coach. This has been a pleasure, my man. It's getting a little late. I'm getting a little tired, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. This has been so much fun, though. I'm hoping that these lineups can hit this week. We entered a larger GPP, so we went a little bit crazy. It was a free contest, so we had some fun with it. But yeah, always a pleasure chatting with you and Chris, of course. And thanks so much for coming on, man.
Of course.
All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.